What up, meatheads? This is Travis, American Butcher, and this is the Meat Block Podcast. And no, I'm not making my voice sound intentionally deep because I want to sound super sexy, or even more sexy than I already am for this amazing Valentine's Day episode we have prepared for you. Even though I would not put that past myself if I talk like this. I have been struck in like thousands or possibly millions of Americans with what is commonly known as influenza. I have the flu, and it sucks. 2 weeks ago, my household was struck by a gastrointestinal infection, also known as the stomach flu, which is not the flu at all. True influenza has to do with respiratory symptoms. Last night, as I was woken up from my son coughing, and me trying to comfort him, and him coughing to the point where he threw up all over me, in my bed, in my wife, in my sheets. And when I was moving the bedding into the washer at 4 this morning, hoping my Ambien would kick back in, I thought, how did I get here? More on that later. Now this being Valentine's Day, I wanted to do something special. I had many ideas. I went deep into the internet and looked for erotic butcher fan fiction. And a lot of it is very demonstrative and disrespectful to women. It's terrible. Don't do it. Don't do the searches that I did. What I do encourage you to do is next time I do those searches is have actual good erotica. So if you're listening to this and you're a fan of writing, please write some erotica for next year. David also did this deep dive into the internet and found the worst of humanity. Deciding he wasn't going to use that, he came up with a creative solution to help make this episode awesome. I was going to take penthouse letters and change words for butcher term and come up with such amazing sentences as spatchcocking, hot duck confit all over my chicken breasts. But I didn't do that either. But David did find something amazing. And I just want to tell you, it's not a trigger warning, but it gets awkward for the rest of the show. And if you don't like being awkward or blushing, then turn it off. This is something I certainly would be embarrassed to listen to with my wife. This would also be something I'd be embarrassed to listen to with another friend in general. I also don't listen to podcasts with people. I find it as a very intimate thing that I listen to by myself. Now, pour yourself a glass of wine, relax, start a bubble bath, because the drought's about to be over. Here's David.
Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. In his way, the meat cutter is an artist. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality.
Hey, gang. In preparation for Valentine's Day here at the Meat Block, I really wanted to think outside the heart-shaped ribeye box. You generally see these steaks along with the ubiquitous back fat roses in cases this time of year, perhaps with some extra tufts of kale or parsley or some other dumb shit like that. You know, many artisanal shops are usually selling provision boxes or bundles, something of that sort, picnic baskets, kits for a perfect date. Maybe some fine cheeses, some in-house charcuterie, a steak, some fixins, some blue cheese butter or something, and a bottle of Malbec. Yada, yada, you know the drill. We've all been peddling those around this time of year. I remember when I worked at a small shop in Seattle, about a quarter of my job was actually cutting meat. The other 75% was primarily cleaning or talking to customers, I'd say. And many respectful but flirtatious engagements and relationships of different magnitudes developed from this time spent interacting. Hell, my great pal Mac met his lady partner while he was behind the block, and they've since moved across the country together. But what about those of us who aren't in the spotlight behind counters in major metropolitan areas, all tarted up with sick haircuts, leather aprons, vintage knives, and tats of your favorite doom metal band? What about those of us who toil the hours away in cold rooms with no sunlight, fluorescence, concrete, and long hours with no one new ever to talk to, really. Most of my coworkers are divorced or unhappily partnered and spend their time, when they're not working, taking care of their kids. I tried finding butchery or food processing specific meetup groups or, romantic meetup groups on the internet to bring to this particular episode. But what I ran into sounded more like groups that would attend a party at Robert and David Picton's Piggy Palace, Good Time Society. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, take a listen to our Halloween episode from 2017. It involves, bondage, murder, rape, and feeding prostitutes to pigs. It seems to be a lot of really dark shit out there when it comes to food processing, erotica. So, what's a lonely meathead to do? I was looking at some Valentine's Day material, and one suggestion to get lonely people in the mood for romance was to fill out some adult Mad Libs. I thought, hot damn, this sounds fun. And that maybe all you guys and gals would enjoy hearing some steamy stories as well. I asked some plant employees for some industry-related verbs, nouns, and adjectives, and then found a fan-created archive of sexy Mad Libs. Hopefully this will get your auger turning, if you know what I mean. So the first one that I found was called The Seduction, written by Anonymous. And let's see. For this one, we need two parts of body. So let's use rump and flat iron. Now let's see. Let's do rump and rib roast. And then adjective, how about gristly? Sound. I want to sound. For the sound blank, let's use ambient equipment noise. For verb ending in ing, we'll use boning. Then need two more adjectives. We could use salty and fatty. For a verb, we can use stuff. For another word for small, we can use petite. They need a couple more adjectives. We can use tough and briny. Plural noun, carcasses, body part, shanks. Verb, cure, verb ending in ing, hanging. Past tense verb, skinned. Adverb, safely. Noun, tendon, and body part, hoof. Okay, let's see how, let's let it populate our answers and see how it comes out. Okay, The Seduction, with the words that we inputted from my great coworkers. Samantha's full lips started to tremble as she pressed them against Jake's sensual rump. Feeling her desire, his tongue began tracing them delicately, whetting her appetite. Samantha responded by reaching down to feel his rib roast. Her exciting touch shook his spine as he realized that his grisly dreams were about to transcend into a satiated reality. The thrill of the moment closed his eyes and sent shivers through his body as he let out a big ambient equipment noise, tilting his head backwards. The undulating movement through his body pushed his erection harder into her hand. Samantha replied by unfastening his shirt buttons and boning on the perspiration that glistened his salty nipples. She then proceeded to lick his firm, muscular chest. Her tongue traveled along the thin midline of hair, leading the way to the generous mat of curls that... Oh, wow, this is really gnarly. Well, I feel like I can't say some of this stuff on here. Being totally taken by her ravaging brats, Jake untied the little straps that held up her sundress. As her garment also fell to the floor, her soft, tough rib roast got perky. Her brats darkened, becoming taut with excitement. Jake took them one by one into the moist cavern of his mouth, teasing him with his briny tongue. He remembered the day before when she brought her body to complete gratification, and he hoped he would not fall short of satisfying her with the same intensity. Okay, this one's really verbose, and it goes on. There's not enough of our input here, so we're gonna go on to another one. Let's see. This one's called Makeup Sex. We've all had that before. Maybe. Let's see. Looking for an adjective. Let's go with fleshy. Another adjective, bloody. Past tense verb, boned. 3 nouns, heifer, bone guard, and scabbard. 2 adjectives, tender and seasoned. Noun, hairnet. Past tense verb, bunged. 3 verbs ending in ing, skinning, eviscerating, and vac packing. Plural noun, hanging tenders. Past tense verb, swabbed. Adverb, accurately. 3 adjectives, quartered, egregiously, and clean. Let's see how this one turns out. Maybe this one will be a little better. You know how it is when you have a fight with your lover that leaves you fuming with anger only to turn into arousal later? Isn't it interesting how wild and intense it can be? That happened to me last night. My boyfriend and I had an argument, but after the apologies, I thought at first that we would just go to bed. I figured, well, at least we wouldn't end the day upset with each other, but then I decided I would rather the two of us go to sleep fleshy and bloody. So I boned my heifer and cleaned his bone guard until it was rock hard, and then I rinsed him off and gave him a scabbard that left him tender and seasoned. I always love it when he returns the favor. I laid on my back and spread my hairnet wide for him. He didn't waste any time as he bunged right in, skinning and eviscerating until my body quivered and my honey flowed beyond control. We did it in all of our favorite positions, ranging from me vac packing him while he pulled on my sensitive hanging tender to my legs on his shoulders, while he swabbed it hard to my favorite position. I love this one the most because my boyfriend always gives it to me accurately and fast, like it will be the last time he'll ever get this quartered peach. Of course, everything was intensified because we were both still a little egregious. As always, we both left very clean and satisfied. That was a pretty good one. That was pretty good. Okay, here's the last one. Okay, so they want a verb. Let's do sanitize. 2 nouns. Let's do stuffer and apron. They want an animal, so let's do bobveal. 3 nouns. Hog panel, stunner, and shackles. 1 adjective, safely, and an animal, let's just say exotic species. This Mad Lib is called Sex on the Beach. She sanitized my stuffer and led me down where we proceeded to fondle and touch each other's aprons, and soon she was caressing my bobveal, and I was stuffing my hog panel in her tight stunner. Soon her mouth was on my shackle. Oh man, this is too okay. I said these were fan fiction, and there's not a lot of punctuation and maybe literacy going on here. You guys get the point. You know, there's all kinds of sexy, fun Mad Libs out there that we can just insert different industry specific terms into, and share some sort of camaraderie there. Maybe at your next blind date or OkCupid meetup, go ahead and bring some of these with you, and maybe it'll help you relate to your date. And explore each other's perversions. How about that? Until next time, I guess I'm just going to stick with the heart-shaped ribeye. Happy Valentine's Day.
Big round of applause for David. I don't think I could have done that. And I want to tell you that I rarely laugh out loud. And when I was editing this or listening to David's piece for the first time, I broke down and almost laughed to the point of hysterics. It was fucking amazing. And I think next year we'll ask from words from our listeners so we could repeat the same exercise. Now, this is the part of the show where I would usually introduce Ryan. But Ryan is in the middle of some big projects, which is understandably taking his attention away. He's still a part of the show, even if you don't hear him in the next few episodes. When I was in my mid-20s and first got into this industry and moved to Vermont, my brother told me one thing: don't fall in love. Don't get stuck out here like me. View this as a learning opportunity to take with you anywhere. I was working 14 hours a day and not really speaking to many women. And most of the men that I worked with assumed I was a homosexual because I was relatively polite. And the women I worked with thought I was quite the catch because I had all my teeth and no children. There was a betting pool at the slaughter facility where everyone put in $20, and the pot amounted to about $260. You may ask yourself, what do you have to do, or what does one have to do to win this pot of money? Well, it's simple. In the basement of the packing house or slaughter plant, there was what's called a rendering room. It was unrefrigerated. It was a beautiful room with no windows, besides the windows on the door leading to the hallway. The lighting of this room was exceptionally bad, almost like it was done intentionally to scare the shit out of you. Let's talk about numbers. A weekly operation. Monday, 160 pigs. Tuesday, 40 head of beef. Wednesday, 40 head of beef. Thursday, 200 lambs. Friday, 30 beef, 1,500 chickens. Unusable byproduct by plant. Hooves, viscera, skull, hair, feathers. Processing waste from the cutting room, such as bones, chines, things of that nature. All this would go into giant bins that would be collected once a week by the rendering company. We would run out of space in the bin sometimes, and we would send the new guy down there with a piece of rebar to pop the guts to make the air escape, to create more room so we could dump more guts on top of it. We had a maintenance worker pass out down there because of the fumes of cleaning agents mixed with the natural fumes of decay and decomposition. There was no vent fan, and it was always humid. One summer, I was down there, and I thought that they got carpet because the floor felt unique underneath my boots. It had give, which it usually did not have. I looked down and realized that I was standing on about 3 inches of maggots. The USDA, unconvinced with this being a harvesting operation that the maggots were going to be future feed for chickens, bullshit by the way, would make us clean the room every 6 months to the best of our abilities every time the frontline supervisor would come around. The inspector would say, "Travis, it looks like the room is getting curtains again." This being all the flies blocking out the light from the window in the doorway. Every day we harvested beef, we would go down there and salt the hides. And this is where the pot came in. When you salt hides, you have a mixture of coarse salt and fine salt. Throw it on the flesh end, then fold it in a perfect square, alternating and rotating until they're about 4 feet high. All this being done on a pallet. You used to be able to get around $30 a hide, and they would count them by the stacked edges, so you had to have your hides perfectly stacked for the counting process. Now, one of these times, someone mentioned how they would like to see someone fuck on this bed of hides. Or if it would be funny if someone did that. I don't know if it was a voyeuristic aspect that this person was into, but the seed was planted. Another coworker jumped in and said, "I'd pay $20 to the person that did that," and so on and so forth. Word quickly spread throughout the processing plant, and by the end of the week, I think the pot was up to $260. Some time went by, and then that was just a staple of the plant. Here's the bathroom, here's the slaughter floor, here's the rendering room. If you fuck someone in there, you get to split $260 with somebody. Here's the chicken room. Here's the vending machines. Friday was poultry day, and one of the few days where we had an abundance of women at the plant. As we were waiting for birds to get down to temperature, and the 8 hours of slaughter is about to roll into 4 hours of processing, where I would be the chicken hook guy, I guess is the best way to describe it. We'd empty out a slush bin, throw in a lamb hook the carcass through the cavity, not through the meat, just to get it out of the bin, and then grab it and put it in a bag. Music is playing, everyone's having a good time, and it's the beginning of winter. When you're rolling on your 11th hour of work, your guard is pretty down. There was a new girl working there. It was her second day. She was holding an open bag, and I slid the chicken into it. We made eye contact, and she smiled and said, "Do you want to split $260? I chuckled to myself and expressed that I was flattered, but politely declined. Conflict of interest. Later in my career, I relocated to Los Angeles, California, to run an artisanal craft butchery in West Hollywood. Some magazines called it the #1 butcher shop in America. And to be honest, I knew working here would be good resume material. I was brought in as a Hail Mary to help fix this business. Now I could fill several hours of audio content bitching about this story in particular. Probably 10 hours. I could talk forever, get a little alcohol in me. I will never shut the fuck up about this shop. I thought I made a huge life mistake by uprooting my life and moving it to Los Angeles. The girl working the counter. I made one friend working there. The person working behind the counter who dealt directly with the customers. After my shift, I would call her and bitch about my day, and she would do the same thing. Venting about customers, venting about the owner's affairs, venting about other employees, etc. It was not good form for the position I was in, but the owners of the company were not leading by example by having their affairs brought out in the Times. So we kept our conversation secret. On the phone turned into venting over drinks. Venting over drinks turned into just drinks. Drinks turned into dinner. Dinners turned into movies. And eventually, this turned into me waking up at 4 a.m, changing my bed sheets from the sun me and her had together. And I couldn't be happier. Happy Valentine's Day to my beautiful wife, and happy birthday to my beautiful son, which is February 15th. So the lesson I take out of this is if you don't want your employees fucking each other, then create a good work environment where they don't have to talk poorly about their job. Happy Valentine's Day, y'all.
She don't like her eggs all runny. She thinks that crossing her legs is funny. She looks down her nose at money. She gets it on like the Easter bunny. She's my baby, I'm her honey. I'm never gonna let her go.
Well, he ain't got laid in a month of Sundays. I caught him once and he was sniffing my undies. He ain't real sharp, but he gets things done. Drinks his beer like it's oxygen. But he's my baby and I'm his honey. I'm never gonna let him go.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Meat Block Podcast. Thanks for bearing with my terrible voice. And thanks for David for reading that awesome erotica. It was awkward. And if you're listening to this, I hope you listen to it with 94-year-old Catholic grandma. If you want to get a hold of us here at The Meat Block, the best way to do that is email themeatblockpodcast@gmail.com. Tweet us, The Meat Block Pod, or Instagram at The Meat Block. If you want to get a hold of David, he is at A Farm Butcher on Instagram. Ryan is at Gather and Break on Instagram. And I am at A Farm Butcher on Instagram and Facebook. And if you're looking for a way to support the show, the best way to do that, honestly, is open up the Apple Podcast app, type in The Meat Block, and leave a 5-star review along with a comment. Just like Matt Lever, Meatmonger, Have Meat Will Travel, or tag us on social media using the Meat Block or hashtag the Meat Block. Just like Goss Farms, Kyle B., Iversted's Farms out in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Simon Butch, and of course, Jared Standing. Also head over to our Facebook group and join the conversation. Till next time, keep your knives sharp, live in the margin. Also, wash your hands and cover your mouth, because I feel like shit.
We'll end up sitting on a rainbow against all odds. Honey, we're the big door prize. Oh, we're gonna spike our noses right off of our faces. There won't be nothing but big old hearts dancing in our eyes. There won't be nothing but big old hearts dancing in our eyes. In spite of ourselves.